Okay, it is 7:05 p.m. My name is Jacob Pride. I'm Chairman of the Board of Supervisors. This is our regular business meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you'll stand with me and say Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Members present include myself, Chairman, Supervisor Robert Levenheim, Vice Chair. Supervisor Barrett is currently absent. If he is able to get onto our meeting, he will, and he will participate. Our solicitor, Ron Karasak, is here, as is our office manager, Julia Heilica. Our township engineer, tonight, Missy Kruger, is unable to make it to the meeting.
Brian?
But we don't feel we have anything critical to that.
Brian, hi. Can you hear me?
Is everything?
Passcode isn't working. He's been trying to call in. We'll try you. Again, Jacob is here. Let's see what we can do.
I can check.
I guess maybe I was going to call you from my iPhone to yours, maybe just that way.
We can do it.
Yeah, that works fine, Brian. If you want to have that, I'm sure that we can always reflect whatever, you know.
All right. If you can hear, all right. We'll just give it a try this way. Okay?
Okay, I can hear, Robert, I can hear you fine, so, and I heard Jacob, so.
All right.
Perfect.
Can you guys in the audience hear Brian?
So I'll just hang where I am.
Awesome.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Great. So we literally just started, and I was saying that you were about to get on, and you did. Perfect. So our first order of business is going over the August 24th, 2021 joint work session, August 24th, 2021 regular business meeting, and September 14th, 2021 regular work session minutes. I know that we all have the chance to go through them. Is there anything that anybody wanted to add, or are we prepared to consider them?
Jacob, I was not present for the evening second session, I guess I should say. So I would recuse myself in that regard.
Okay. Well, do I hear a motion from you to approve the August 24th joint work session and regular work session, and then the September 14th meeting then?
Yes.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Barrett. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. And I will move that we do approve the regular business meeting August 24th minutes. Robert, will you second the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And let the record reflect that Mr. Barrett recuses himself because he was not able to make that meeting. Our next item is public comments on the agenda. This is not necessarily public comment on agenda items. It is public comment on what is or is not being considered. Does anybody have anything either here in person or on Zoom? Hearing none, we will move forward. There are no public hearings or plans to act on this evening. Our first order of business under new business is Smithfield Gateway updates, and we have Mr. Doug Olmsted here to go over that with us. So, Doug?
Thank you very much. Again, Doug Olmsted, Development Manager for Smithfield Gateway. Just wanted to provide the Board of Supervisors with a brief update in terms of where we are as far as the project is concerned. We do have our HOP now after many months, or I should say years, of working to get that taken care of.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And right now, it is scheduled that work will go out to bid the beginning of November, and the work would start next April. Excuse me. The plans, of course, have been all signed. They're sitting in escrow with Mark Wolf. And before you this evening are is the development agreement and the collateral assignment agreement also for the supervisor's signature. And as soon as I can get those taken care of, I will deliver those to Mark Wolf's office to put into escrow until all of the documents are in place.
Doug, I'm sorry, I was reading this. What starts next April?
The PennDOT work would start in
Okay.
April.
And that's supposed to be finished by November?
That would be finished next construction season,
Okay.
yes. As far as the, financial closings are concerned, we've got 3 closings scheduled. The first of those 3 closings is scheduled for tomorrow. And that will be for the remainder of the TIP balance, which is $2.5 million. Closing on that tomorrow, and then once everything is in place and the proceeds are released, those proceeds will go to Chuck Leonard's office. That'll be one of the buckets of money that will be available to pay for the improvements in accordance with the developer's agreement, the collateral assignment. The other 2 closings are scheduled for the first 2 weeks of October, so by October 15th, all the financing will be in place for both site work and vertical construction. And the contractor will be turned loose to get the pad ready for the medical office building. Excuse me.
When is that?
It's expected that the medical office building itself, the vertical construction, would start next March. And that would be completed by the end of next year also. The actual work will be completed a little bit before then, but then it'll takes 4 to 5 months for St. Luke's to do their fit out
Sure.
of the interior.
You're planning one for like June 2023, so.
No, it's sometime between February and June would be the move-in date. To a certain extent, it's going to depend on how things go this winter.
When do we plan to put the stoplight in?
That would be in before the end of next year. Still around the Labor Day week. That's still on target. I think that's basically all I have as far as an update is concerned. And hopefully Brian will be able to get here tomorrow morning to sign those documents so I can get them to Mark Wolf's office.
And what time would that be, sir?
They're here now for your signature, so whatever time works for you, Brian.
Okay, I'll be there. I'll be there very early. Literally, by the crack of 10 o'clock.
That'll be fine,
Yeah.
then.
You're like, Ronald Reagan.
I'll be there to say.
I'm sorry? When Ronald Reagan was governor of California, his staff used to say, it starts every day at the crack of noon.
That's why he was my hero. I'll be there early tomorrow, Doug. They'll be taken care of.
Thank you.
There should be 3 documents. There should be the land development improvements agreement,
Right.
the collateral assignment of agreements, and the closing escrow. Now, there was an issue about whether or not there were signatures on that, but I think all 3 of those documents are now signed, so I'm not sure if all 3 of them are there in front of you.
I know the closing escrow is here, and then the development agreement is also in front of me.
The collateral assignment agreement is really in Exhibit H.
Oh,
That development, but
okay.
I don't know if that's separate.
Okay.
That is in the, as an exhibit to the developer's agreement.
Perfect. Well, we'll definitely double check to make sure that we have them all correct.
And I asked, Mr. Wolf, along with, illustrious Doug Olmsted, to make sure we have our signatures on all of them, because I know that some you don't generally, but the nature of this project, the nature of the dollars involved, I want you guys signing everything so that you all have an opportunity to look at things before you put your John Henry on, so.
Sure.
Amen.
Obviously, they meet with your approval based on the emails that we've seen, so.
I actually reviewed them, and I can't say timely, but somewhat timely I did.
You know, we're in good shape from a timing standpoint, so appreciate Ron's, efforts and.
Well, Mr. Maturga, called me tail end of that last week, and I spoke with him, and he said that this one closing was coming up for tomorrow, so I said, well, I'll make sure that I get things looked at for purposes of that, so they're in place, so.
Great. Well, Ron, that said, I know we had, previous conditional motions. Would you like a motion for us to sign all of these documents absent those, absent anything conditional?
We make a motion to sign those documents and have them held in escrow pursuant to the closing escrow agreement. That would be fine.
Okay. Before I entertain that motion, does anybody have any questions?
I do. Ron, could you repeat that?
Sure. There should be a motion to sign those three documents, and let's name them: the Land Development Improvements Agreement, the Collateral Assignment of Agreements, and the Closing Escrow Agreement. And to then have those agreements delivered, Attorney Mark will hold those agreements in escrow to the closing escrow agreement, and then those agreements will be released pursuant to that agreement also. So it's a lot more than what I initially said, but since you're putting it all down, let's get it all. And also the plan itself, I'm assuming the plan has been signed already, or is
They're signed and they're
Correct.
sitting and they're already in.
the plans are already done? Okay.
Yeah, I think John was okay with that months
So you need anything else
ago.
that I screwed up there, kid, or are you good?
Thank you for the repetition, I appreciate
No
it.
problem.
That said, I will make a motion to that effect. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Anybody have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Great, motion carries. So
Thank
we
you
will.
very much. It's expected that after the last closing, which I think is scheduled for either October 13th or 14th, that will be, at that time, once that closing takes place, should be the completion of all the documents then being in place.
Perfect.
And then within a day or two after that, everything will start to be recorded, and there's a very specific order that it will be recorded.
Right.
Nothing is amiss.
And on the development agreement, I think Schedule G, Mr. George,
Right.
has a closing protocol on it.
Correct. Very thorough. I did look at it. Right. Well, we will get
Any other
those.
questions?
Thanks, Father. We're gonna get them signed, and we'll call you as soon as
That'd be great.
they're done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming to all of these sessions. Okay.
Thanks for not throwing me out. Have a good evening.
All right.
You too,
guys.
Doug.
You too.
Okay. Our next item is considering advertising budget sessions. I think in previous meetings, we had floated October 20th, October 27th, November 3rd, and an optional November 10th session. All of those are Wednesdays, and we did all mention 10 a.m. in keeping past practices. Does that still work for everybody?
It does work for me.
Robert?
Okay for me.
Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion to advertise those sessions?
Second motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Levenheim. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Barrett. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Our Next item is considering ratifying, the bidding, for the bidding advertisement for Marshall Falls outbuilding demolition pursuant to the grant that we got, to that effect. Julia, do you want to talk about that for a moment?
Sure. This is related to the $40,000 redevelopment grant that the township received to demolish the 3 outbuildings on the Marshall Falls property. In order to make sure that we had the appropriate timeline so you could accept whatever award wins at your first October meeting, we had to get it in for Friday, September 24th, which is why you are ratifying this. But as far as it goes, we're all set. I've spoken to Ralph Sarnowski, who is our contact with Barry Isaac for this project. He's already had a couple bites for the project, so it looks like we will have some competitive bidding this time around.
Great. Anybody have any questions? I will move that we ratify the advertisement for the Marshall Falls outbuilding demolition. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Levenheim. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry. Marshall's Falls, it's on, Marshall's Creek Road by the old Mountain Manor,
Okay.
building. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So it's just right past that. It's like across from Scott Family Drive.
Exactly, right
Yes,
there.
yes, that fantastic turn where there's great eyesight, but that's why we're gonna be working on these things to make sure everybody can see safely. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Next item is, discussing the potential Pima grant application. I understand Julia attended 2 webinars on this.
Yes, and they are rather extensive. The township, if we wanted to go after one of these, can choose from 3 different programs. After having looked into them, they're quite extensive, and a couple of them, one of them we actually won't go after at all because our hazard mitigation plan is already completed. We've been working with the county, and our official update will drop sometime in October once we hear word back from Pima. The other ones are quite extensive, and you can ask for millions of dollars for these things.
Wow.
So it's something that we can go after if we want to. We do need a letter of intent by October 15th, but I do need to caution the board that if this is something you want to pursue, this is not something that I will be able to do by myself. It is a massive undertaking, because the projects that they often pursue are acquisition of properties or elevating homes that are in a large floodway or a floodplain. And whatever we do decide to do needs to be in concert with our hazard mitigation plan at this time. So it's something we can pursue, but with no concept of a project, unless one of you guys has an idea that we can go after now. Personally speaking, I would address concern that we could get the application complete time frame. For the grant period of this, it opens on September 30th. We need the letter of intent or interest, depending on what grant we pursue, by October 15th. And then the full application is due November 9th.
This is for projects in floodways,
It's designed to be hazard mitigation. What they spent about 2.5 hours talking about this morning, was if you have houses or areas that are in floodways or floodplains, because that's the only property you can do this with. If the current property owner is willing to give up their property and do a voluntary sale to the township, we can pursue getting that property owner out of a state of constant flooding, basically. We also have the option to pursue elevating houses that are currently in the zone. But in order to do that, we need some of the basics, like a cover letter. We need to designate an agent for the plan by resolution. But we also need a state certified appraisal, substantial damage certification, hazardous material survey forms, and NEPA and compliance letters, both from PennDOT and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that are required to do this project.
I can't think of any area where we would need to use it.
finding came up the last time we worked with Pima and FEMA. And as I said earlier, we actually visited, knocked on doors, and at that time FEMA made their presentation. They really encouraged people selling their property so they could get rid of them, and a couple of things happened there. Just the damage on site, but the damage down river also. But nothing ever came of it, and I think Joy hit it right on the head. It's very, I say complicated, certainly to a person like myself, but it's a very intense whole procedure.
I would say unless the people in crisis landing really wanted it, which you're saying is kind of,
Last time they did not.
Yeah.
They as you see, they had the option, they raised their homes, and that's primarily the main place that's where FEMA went with Pima and ourselves actually, and as I say, no, there were no takers.
So they don't want to move. It doesn't seem like you should do anything about it.
Amen. Especially get involved in encouraging it if they don't want it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think then in that case, we could keep this on our radar for thing that might come up. I mean, once we have a hazard mitigation plan and we can see what effects does that have for the next year, perhaps we can look at this at some point, according to that.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And if the board's interested, we could even start planning, once we get past budget season, maybe for a proposal for next year, just to give ourselves some time and wiggle room to do this right.
Sure. Sounds good enough to me. Anybody have anything else before we go on to the special event permit? Okay. Our next item, E, is concerning the special event permit for the Pocono Food Truck Festival at Shawnee Mountain. All of the proceeds from admissions benefit the Shawnee Volunteer Fire Company. So in keeping with tradition, we would waive the $50 fee. It's from October 9th, or it's on October 9th and 10th from 11:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. They would have a couple of signs, including their state sign, and they don't really have anything else that is specific to it, other than they already have the certificate of insurance naming us as an additional insured. Anybody have any questions?
I would make the motion that we approve the special use permit and waive the fee.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Levenheim, second by Mr. Barrett. Questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Should be a great event, especially because the fire company hasn't had fireworks 2 years in a row, and each year that's about $16,000 in revenue. So it's posted to our site and shared online. So I hope that people consider going to it, or at least donating. Next up is considering the draft of the financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2020, also known as 2020. We have our audit done by Kirk Suma. It has the same traditional notes. We had to make an early decision to sign on to the draft report, but now this is approving it as final, and that's only to meet a state deadline. I know that everybody had a couple of thoughts, or based on everything. Is everybody satisfied with answers that we have, or does anybody have anything else?
I'm satisfied personally.
Robert?
Fine with me.
Okay, do I hear a motion that we approve our 2020 audit?
No motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Levenheim. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, our next item is considering a volunteer fire relief allocation. This is funding that we receive every year from the state for the fire relief associations for our three fire companies. The total amount that we received from the state to disperse is $42,314.81. The formula that we follow yielded $19,041.66 each to Shawnee Fire Company and Marshall's Creek Fire Company, and $4,231.49 to the Delaware Water Gap Fire Company. Anybody have any thoughts or questions on that?
Jacob, just one, I don't know where I saw this, it came across, somewhere on my desk. Is there a projected decrease, or is this actually a decrease in, volunteer fire relief allocations from last year?
Yeah, from what I understand, it's a slight decrease from last year, and Lynn said it's been following this pattern for a couple of years. I think a couple of years back it was somewhere around 48, 46, and now it's about 43, 42.
Yeah, actually it was up to about 57,000 about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, my only comment on that is that when we start to sit down and see what we can do or what we want to do with the ARP money, maybe we might consider augmenting this particular allocation for all three fire companies to bring it up to maybe what it was last year. That's something we could talk about, but just a thought when we get to ARP.
Sure, and that'll be a good consideration, because there's a number of ways we can tackle that. I agree.
Okay.
That said, do we have a motion on this, or did somebody, I'm forgetting?
It just says consider.
Oh, okay.
No one's made.
Okay, no one's made a motion. Would someone like to make a motion on this?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. A motion by Mr. Barrett, second by myself. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Our next item is considering our regular second half of the year contributions to our fire and EMS companies. That is $28,495 each to Shawnee Fire Company and Marshall's Creek Fire Company, and $6,510 to Delaware Water Gap Fire Company. And we also have $4,500 to Bushkill EMS and $2,500 to Suburban EMS. Anybody have any questions on that?
I'll motion that we approve it.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Levenheim. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Our next item is considering trick-or-treat hours. I know there's not a ton of trick-or-treating in Smithfield, at least in the sense that there is in the denser boroughs, but last year we set our trick-or-treat hours from 6 to 8 p.m. in accordance with CDC guidelines on October 31st. I understand COG did not make a recommendation yet, but perhaps that's because some of our fellow municipalities tend to make that decision later on in October.
I think they forgot about it.
You should know, I was just at Bethel last night, and they reminded everyone that this year trick-or-treat, the 31st, or not trick-or-treat, Halloween is actually on Sunday this year.
Correct.
So that they felt they may just stay with the date now, they didn't have to change your layout, so.
Oh, okay. Good.
So, I just mentioned that in case you thought Halloween was a different day, because it's on a Sunday this year.
So do we need hours then? Not really.
I mean, they're mostly a formality, but I would suggest that we should keep them in place. It won't really matter when it comes to the next item I want to talk about, but,
What would you suggest is the hour?
6 to 8 like we did last year.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
And then on the 31st,
On October 31st, correct.
So we're really suggesting that as hours. People
Essentially.
can't come to.
I've never seen somebody be written a ticket for getting candy at 5:47 or 8:05, but but, general guideline, just, because then otherwise people won't really know when to start, so it's good to suggest, I suppose. So I'll move that we recommend, trick-or-treat hours from 6 to 8 p.m. in accordance with CDC guidelines on October 31st, a Sunday.
Second.
Okay, any questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. The next item, I added because I think for a long time, Smithfield had done a lot of community events, and I think because of COVID, we haven't been able to really get back into that. But I think now there are some safe ways to celebrate things outdoors, and I would like us to consider holding a trunk or treat event at Waterfront Park on October 22nd, which is a Friday, from 5 to 7:30. I think we can do it in a COVID-safe manner where we don't permit people to bring their own candy. The township can provide candy out of our park events budget, which I would not suggest be more than $250. So that's enough candy and sanitizer and gloves for those that are handing out candy. And I would think that it would be a nice way to encourage people to be safe outside and, encourage, masking, particularly by, those that have not been vaccinated. My understanding that children will most likely be able to be vaccinated in the next few weeks, so we're getting decent on that. But I also think that some places that had hosted events in the past are not. I know for a fact my church is not, and that always got a good number of people. I was thinking we could space cars out, one space apart to preserve the social distancing, have a nice line outside, and then people can shuttle out when they're done. I don't think it would be wise to promote any activities beyond that, but I think that'd be a nice way to, do things. I mean, I've seen pictures of Lois with the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus, and the fire truck in the township. So I think this would be a great idea. This is something we talked about, before COVID, kind of emulating other potluck events that other municipalities have been doing, but I think this is the safest one to do, considering the circumstances, but I'd like to get your guys' feelings.
I think it's a good idea. It's going to take some organization. I also would urge the township, if we're buying candy, to have some sugar-free choices, because I don't think we should be promoting the use or the ingestion of sugar.
We can also buy little Halloween knickknacks, like, Swiss things and,
anything like that. I think Halloween's gotten it's gotten out of control with the amount of sugar that children are encouraged to eat during Halloween.
I agree. I totally agree. So, did you pick a date?
Yeah, I was suggesting October 22nd. Ron, did you?
Ooh, about the candy.
Oh. Well, Ron, if you come, we know that, for the big kid, we'll have the good candy.
Jason, would there be a time that this would be held?
Yeah, I would suggest from 5:30 to 7:30. I think that we would make sure there's sufficient lighting, and whatnot, which we can certainly do, and then also make sure that, we section off some parking for the actual trunk or treat, which we require pre-registration for people to, decorate their vehicle and stuff, because I know other municipalities, including our colleagues in Middle Smithfield, have done that, but I think it would also be nice to make sure we have enough parking, and then when people are done, they can shuffle out, so perhaps trunk or treats like in the lower parking lot, and then parking is the upper lot, or even vice versa.
Or shuffle out and watch the Ecuadorian roofers play volleyball.
Maybe we could get them to help us out.
Could be.
But I would certainly be happy to facilitate people. I know that, my church isn't doing it, so it would be a nice way to get some people, into the parks and seeing that we're community oriented.
getting back on foot. Jacob, what would you, you'll be looking for a couple of volunteers then, really? Is that it?
Yeah, certainly. I don't think we'd really need any, paid staff, though, if any staff was, actively, working on it that day. I know Ken is already working on his own trunk or treat with another organization, but I think that if we needed someone, I'll have to look at that during the week. But I know at minimum, certainly volunteers to decorate a trunk. I think if we had 25 or 30 cars, I think that would be nice.
That'd be ideal. That'd be interesting.
I would certainly decorate one, and I think that, anyone else, that would be great. And we'll be able to promote it online, too, and invite folks, so that would be good.
Go for it.
Okay, yep. Yeah.
Okay, well, hearing that, I'd like to move that we sponsor a trunk or treat event at Waterfront Park on Friday, October 22nd, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., and include funding for treats and preparation not to exceed $250. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. Okay.
Well,
I'm not sure.
Moved by myself and simultaneously seconded by my colleague. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm just thinking, maybe we shouldn't necessarily limit it to $250 until we know what we're doing. What if we got somebody to have a tank of up for apples or something?
Oh, certainly. I'm not going to do that.
COVID, we can't do that. We can hand them out, I guess. All right, forget that idea.
Well,
hand the apples out, send them down to the creek.
Yeah, right.
oh man.
No water.
No water.
Okay. Well, hearing all that, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Then our next item is discussing the Municipal Center COVID-19 policies in O'Brien, U.S. I'm sorry that I didn't include it originally, but I must have totally blanked, because we did note that at the last meeting. It's definitely an important topic, so I don't know where you want to start on that.
Just simply, I've been trying to do as much research and following up on what's going on with COVID-19, especially in Monroe County and Smithfield Township. And as I said earlier, I think you all know how I feel. Nothing drastic. I don't think we have to go back to a situation where we have public meetings that can be Zoom and in person. We could have maybe a hybrid social distancing, but I'm really concerned about the masks, and I mean that sincerely. I'm not just going on here. I would like to see just a mask be any public meetings that we have, that masks would be worn. And I wouldn't differentiate either. I wouldn't say vaccinated or not vaccinated. And that, I would like to see that at least to begin. God knows what kind of a winter we're going to have. It just doesn't all over the place. But at least that we began with a very simple, and it's not intrusive so much or an inconvenience, just asking people you come to the meeting in person, wear a mask. And we could, I think, Jacob, we discussed it earlier. I think we have masks that we could, you don't have a mask, here's a mask, sir or ma'am.
Yeah, I initially, when CDC guidance was allowing people to do things without masks, I was like, okay, this is pretty great, but I think we have a lot of people that are unvaccinated, and they are, unfortunately, the issue. And I think that, because of that, unfortunately, those of us who are vaccinated, we kind of have to share in that burden a little bit, at least until we get more unvaccinated to get the vaccine. So, I would agree. I think it would be fine to require masks, starting at least at our next meeting, at least for the foreseeable future. I think, we can assess where we're at after boosters and things like that. But only people that have got Pfizer shots right now are going to be eligible for boosters.
That's right, yeah.
So I would be okay with requiring masks. I think that, it's at this point, though I certainly feel safe with other vaccinated people, we cannot always, guarantee everyone's feelings, and perhaps the best way is to just say, let's mask back up for now and then assess where we're at in a couple of months.
Well, my only feeling about this, and contrary to what you're saying, is this: when does this all end? A couple of months, a couple of years? This has been going on now for a year and a half. As you can see, I'm not masked, so I guess I'm and I'm vaccinated, in the category of those who are sick of masks. And you should know this, that the current threat in the United States is the mu variant. We're long past Delta. In the Greek alphabet, mu is, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu. It's about 7 we've had, 7 variants, and now we're up to mu. What are we going to be up to by Christmas? Omega? I don't know. But it's endless, and the guidelines from the government seem to be more and more confused.
I think we don't have to necessarily totally abide by the guidelines of the government.
What are they?
Take them very seriously, and then let's just, Jacob said, let's just take a look at it every month even. We'll take a look at it. Where's Smithfield Township especially, and what do we want to do?
We're probably
ongoing.
Right, because Smithfield is a great representation of the 189th legislative district that Rosemary Brown represents, and these vaccination statistics by legislative district, except for Philadelphia, the 189th is only about 44 to 46% vaccinated, as opposed to the country, or fully vaccinated, as opposed to the country, which is now about 55% fully vaccinated. I don't love doing this either, and I've long been a more germophobic person, so this has not been a terrible inconvenience to me. I honestly think people should wear masks throughout most of the fall and winter when we get to flu season. That's why other countries don't have the flu deaths and cases that we have. I mean, that's why you get a flu shot. But in any case, I'm not here to pontificate about it.
There goes Robert.
Well, there's another element of this. When you say being in the lead, maybe we could impose this, that people, forgetting whether we're wearing masks or not wearing masks, but people who come in here who want to attend these sessions who are not vaccinated, we could make them take an instant COVID test. These tests are now available everywhere. I think you can buy them in the drugstore for $9 or something. See, that's something we could impose. Nobody does that, but why not?
I'd also like to consider, as I don't mean to take this to an extreme length, but because I know, based on what I know, and I won't say any names, but my understanding is this is our employees, our staff, are almost unanimously vaccinated. But I think at a certain point, we need to say that you're either going to get a vaccine or you're going to get tested. Now, we don't apply, or we don't fall under President Biden's executive order, which is that businesses, or OSHA rule, is that businesses that have 100 employees or more are subjected to a vaccine requirement or weekly testing. I mean, I think at some point, we can't coddle people that won't get vaccinated.
I agree.
As a society, I'm not even just talking about Smithfield, but we cannot just say, because you feel your freedom will be lost by caring about your neighbor, that you're not going to get, vaccinated. We can't steamer on that much longer, and I would like to see more federal action on that so we understand how to do it.
If Smithfield is moving ahead, why can't we make our own rules and saying, if you're not vaccinated, we have instant tests here, you have to take one of these.
As much as I would be okay with that, I just don't know how we'd administer that, like.
Well, it's an instant test, you do it yourself.
Yeah, it takes like 15 minutes.
I don't even think it takes that long.
I don't know how reliable it is, though,
truthfully. Huh?
I don't know how reliable it is.
These are self-test kits you buy in a drugstore.
I don't know how reliable they say, though.
Huh?
I don't know how reliable they are, Robert.
They're only $9 a piece. I'm sorry, Brian, I wasn't.
GREG.
Brian, what'd you say?
So I'm saying that's a good point, but I'd just like to know the percentage of failures or the failure to recognize.
I don't know, but I know that even
Right now, the cheap ones in the stores they're horrendous.
Well,
and they give you a false goddamn sense. If you test negative, you're immune to the world. You're out in the restaurant. You're out on the dance floor.
I don't know. I don't know the statistics on that. I just know they've all been approved, and the only test that really, I guess, is pretty accurate is the PCR test, which is
The 3-day test.
That's something else. That's not what we're talking about here.
I mean,
No.
I think at minimum I think we should all agree to requiring, guests, to wear a mask regardless of vaccination status. At least on a month-to-month basis where we can assess that according to, local positivity statistics and whatnot. That would not bother me. As much as I'd love to see more people getting tested and stuff, I don't think it's gonna be feasible to do that, but I definitely think the sentiment is true. We just need more people to get vaccinated, then we won't have all these variants.
And the state of Pennsylvania is in the low 50s itself. Just lower than the United States in general. And Smithfield Township has nothing to brag about.
I mean, because I know they don't have exact municipal data, but like when you look at the legislative district being like 46%, you know that Smithfield is right on that average or lower.
Or lower, yep.
So I mean, I'd like to see us impose the mask starting for the public starting to tomorrow, and for our, I'll call on you in a second, sir, and our and people attending meetings starting at the next meeting. That said,
Let's move forward then on it. I'll make a motion that we ask that people attending our meetings in person are masked.
I will second. That said, I'll ask for public comment. Mr. Munson, do you want to? Amundsen, sorry.
What happens when someone has a religious belief, doesn't want to get vaccinated? What are you going to do then?
Listen, I'm sorry, could I hear that again?
What if someone has a religious belief and doesn't want to be vaccinated? What do you do then?
I believe that that is handled, actually, a religious belief, a medical situation, but especially a religious belief has to be substantiated in some way, and then it's the American Civil Liberties Union is fully behind that. So I guess what I'm saying is somebody comes in and they claim that, all we would ask is a written statement or something, some simple verification.
So now are you as Smithfield Township liable with a discrimination situation?
No, hold on here. I would like to suggest that, I know that's being litigated in some areas, and I'm not gonna get into constitutional law here, but, vaccine mandates and mask mandates have been consistently upheld, by federal and state courts across the country. So I would defer to the judges, and certainly our solicitor would know more on that than I, and vaccine mandates have been upheld for going on 80 years by the Supreme Court. I mean, we're not gonna mandate vaccination to come to meetings, but we think it's a reasonable public health measure to wear a mask. I'm not gonna comment on someone's religion. I know I will speak personally. I identify as a Lutheran, and from our ELCA, of which I'm a member, our church says that there is no religious base for a vaccination to be exempted from one. I won't say whether or not I believe yours, if that's your case or someone else's. I just think that that is a reasonable public health measure. I think we required it only until the CDC said that we didn't need to, and now we're just talking about, because we're an area of high transmission according to the Centers for Disease Control, I think it would be reasonable to follow that guidance. Now, Ron, I don't know if there's anything you would like to speak to in regard to the legal aspect of any of this.
Obviously, these are all relatively new areas. Courts are all over the place. Some support, some don't support. Some are corner masking, some are not in that corner. It's just impossible to tell moving forward how this will all work out until there is a definitive higher court that will make a decision with respect to this. However, with respect to the motion on the floor, which is the mask mandate for meetings, it is being, from my understanding, proposed because the township is in an area of higher transmission, and that to require a mask is not intrusive, and of course, those who may have some type of religious or other exemption would be allowed that exemption. So that's the motion. I would think that you would be okay to act upon that.
Okay. That said, any other comments, questions from those that have not yet spoken? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Robert, you legally can't abstain.
And then I'll vote against it. Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Effective at our next meeting, guests have to be masked.
We'll have to get the word out, Jacob.
I agree.
You should probably post the door,
For sure. We can change the one on the door. I would also move, further that guests that visit the municipal center, also be masked.
People who are coming in to visit.
Correct. The courts require it, the Monroe County Commissioners require it, Lord knows I don't always agree with them, and they require it. Yeah,
and I agree with you.
Okay, well, would you second my motion, Brian?
Yes, I second it.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Hamilton?
Bars and restaurants don't require it, supermarkets don't require it, Walmart doesn't require it. Where's the difference? They are looking at way more people a day or an hour than you guys do. You're talking maybe 50 to 75 people in here a day. They're looking at that for an hour.
If they're lucky, if they're fortunate, that is something I'm sure would be music to their ears, sir. But it's not quite. I don't think it's that rosy.
I'll also remind my colleagues that there's no obligation to respond to public comment.
That would be. Thank you. I'll take that to heart.
I think I've responded by my vote.
Yes, you did. Okay, so
Right.
we got it.
Well, I was going to say, that said, all in favor? Aye.
Again, aye.
Okay, motion carries 2-1. I would like to, before, because we're getting toward the end here, the only other thing we have now is paying the bills. I received a request, just not too long ago, at via email. A woman named, Candace would like to use, the field at Waterfront, for a wedding ceremony, but that would not include, anything extraneous, like tables. There wouldn't be food there or anything like that. They just want to use it for the ceremony and the photos. I would like to grant that request conditionally upon whether or not there's availability and acceptance by FC Pocono, who would be potentially impacted, as it would be a 3 to 10 p.m. event. Now, they won't be upset if we can't do it, but the only reason it's coming to us anyway is that they have a PA system, basically a sound system for 2 songs specifically, for 2 for the entrance and 1 to exit with. Now, I personally have no problem. I think it's great that someone wants to do that in one of our parks.
They really want to use the field rather than the water?
Yeah, and they don't want to use, they'll probably still be under construction then, but they don't want to use.
When you say photos, I thought they'd want to creep it.
Yeah, well, maybe, if it looks nice enough then. They also don't want to, use the pavilion because they won't be serving food. Now, I think that we should grant this just with the understanding that, or conditionally approve it with the understanding that it may not go through if tomorrow Manuela Tufano tells me that FC Pocono won't be able to work around that. Does anybody have any questions on that? We also would have to charge them like $50 in accordance with the fee schedule or something like that.
Are they residents, Jacob, are they Smithfield residents?
They live in Middle Smithfield, so just right over the border. So, I mean, it would probably be somewhere between 10 and 50.
Yeah. But it's again, it's positive use of our facilities. I'd say I don't see any problem with it conditionally.
Yeah, because, I mean.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Brian, as a public official, maybe you could volunteer to marry them.
Yeah, we're all public officials, right?
No, that's Jacob's job anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if they give supervisors that like they give mayors, but that's.
No, you got to be a mayor.
It's a very important legal question that we will, of course, ensure that resources are dedicated. I'm being facetious, everybody. I'm not going to specifically spend money on that. So in any case, I'll move that we grant that application for township. Yes, Julia.
That the board complies with the,
correct. Sorry. I have to move that we add this to the agenda before we vote on the question. So I would move that we add this as item L, consider township facilities use application for wedding.
I'll second that.
You also need to state why it's being added.
And,
it's being added
right.
because you're.
After the cutoff, correct. I'll second Brian's motion to add it. Questions?
Brian seconded your motion.
Oh,
The motion to add
sorry.
it, Brian seconded.
Sorry. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Now, I move that we vote on the underlying question as stated, the conditional motion.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay, I'll second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so I'll reach out to FC Pocono and Ms. Thomas. Right. Our next item before we proceed to public comment is paying our bills. We have 2 sets of bills. We have the September 16th bills and the September 28th bills. That includes includes 2 payrolls between them. It includes engineering bills, and it also includes our parks maintenance bills, funding for Pioneer Construction, our regular contribution to the Monroe County Control Center, legal bills, and our health insurance and whatnot, as well as the other regular bills like trash and internet, or not internet, phone service. It totals $194,618.34, and that's for the entire month of September. Anybody have any questions?
Motion we approve.
Okay, motion to approve them by Mr. Levenheim. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Mr. Barrett. Any debate or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our next item, before adjournment is public comments. Anyone here in the audience or, on Zoom who to comment, I'll defer to the room first. Sir, if you would like to state your name.
My name is Richard Clark, and I would like to comment on Robert's letter, the village of Shawnee. Since I live between the two spots that you want to put in the speed tablets, the thing that concerns me is cars hit that and lose control, they're really flying into the residences and the offices of the buildings on that road.
Well,
Now, I can attest to the fact that this happens. My house has been hit once, my fence has been hit several times. And, the last time I had to replace my whole porch. It was done by someone who lost control, doing about 20 miles an hour. They weren't speeding, and, they got out of control. Sure, if you put these tablets in, people are gonna be speeding, they'll be hitting it, losing control, and they'll be falling into it.
I think that's a reasonable concern, and understand that what I sent out was possibilities of what we could do. Not that we're gonna do them, because each one of them costs money. My feeling was if the residents want them, then they should come to us and let us know. So far, no one has come in except you. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, unless we get a flurry of interest, each one of these proposals, whether it's speed tables, whether it's speed pillows, whether it's just a speed, radar, device that says your speed is,
I know, that's all.
and nobody wants it, well, then we won't do it.
Well, I've seen the water damp, and they don't work that there either.
Right. So, I welcome the comments, because that's what I wanted from everybody. But since nobody seems to be interested, I guess nothing is gonna be done. Certainly, I'm not gonna pursue it.
I would like to see the speed cut down too, and the police work at it. I see them giving out tickets all the time down there. So, I mean, I guess we can get.
I think that the police will be giving out more tickets once the general store opens, so they can also have lunch.
They're still down there quite a bit, and the store's open now anyway.
Is it? I keep hearing it's open, it's closed, it's open, it's closed.
It's been open for a month now.
She's announced she's having an opening on October 10th.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing.
Grand opening, I think it's October 9 and 10, Robert, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that on
Anyway,
Facebook.
be sure, nothing's gonna happen, because nobody is interested.
And well, the other thing is, the traffic increasing, that will slow it down considerably.
Hopefully.
I noticed on the weekends now, with the heavy traffic over the summer, everybody's going a lot slower. So working on 209, only make it better and slower in the village.
Well, maybe, but, my motivation was only because people have complaining, saying, this is what could possibly be done. Nobody seems to want anything done, so things will stay the same.
Thank you for coming tonight. I think we've interacted either by email or something before, but it's nice to see you in person.
Hey, can you identify this gentleman for me? I'm sorry, sitting here and
It's Richard Kerr.
Richard Kerr, I thought I recognized that voice. Richard, it's Brian, hello.
Hi, Brian.
How you doing?
Good.
Okay, thanks, Jacob.
Yeah,
Okay.
no worries. Sure, Mrs. Amundson?
Yes, can I come up, because I have a map that I'd like to.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so, we have been residents of, Smithfield Township for about 20 years, we've been in East Stroudsburg for 25 years. We're both, full-time educators, side business of, landscape company, which services many properties within Smithfield Township.
Definitely.
But I certainly hope that you can help us. So, we live, at 312 East Broad Street, which is, our front yard is borough, East Stroudsburg borough.
Okay,
Our
right.
backyard is East Stroudsburg, so we're on like, that corner pocket there.
Right.
So, the situation is, storm drainage. So, along East I don't think this map is gonna, along East Broad Street, very top, our water comes underneath East Broad Street, and then used to go into what was, I think you call it a dry bed. And when we moved in, it was just kind of like a thicket and some rocks thrown in there and whatnot. And we since 20 years ago, cleaned it up with permission with our then neighbor.
Sure.
Across the street in the borough, there are now 2 homes that have taken every tree down, planted grass, so there's nowhere for the water to go. So it comes under the street and down along the side of our property. It floods. And when we have rain or pockets of rain that are, how it's pouring, what happens is it then floods and puddles and it's creating I don't even know, it's
A creek.
a small creek.
A creek that's every bit of 3 to 5 feet wide
Wow.
So then,
and goes into
So it crosses the road then?
Correct.
Just like sheets of water coming across the road?
Correct.
so it comes under the road.
Under it?
No, it's above and below.
Oh, is there a storm drain under the road?
Storm drain under East Broad Street. So that goes along the side of our property. It used to go across our neighbor's, common driveway,
Yes.
common, what do you call it?
When somebody shares a driveway.
Shared driveway.
Sure.
Shared driveway.
Right.
And then it would go down and make its way to where water goes. Like you can't control where water's gonna go, it's gonna go where it's go. The neighbor to our north, who's like,
Sure.
Glen Shook,
Okay.
has, as I understand, has obtained permission to build up and elevate his driveway. In doing so, I have a question. In regards to the question is, how high can you build up your driveway? In doing that, that water no longer goes onto his driveway. It puddles and floods our backyard
Okay.
to a severe extent, where the September 1st storm that we had, it ended up coming across our backyard, digging out, fencing, mulch, what have you, and then going out to our neighbors to the west of us, and going through, and then water was making its way to where it's supposed to go.
So what he's done was built up his driveway and then purchased what I know in the landscaping business as mafia boxes. They are not Jersey barriers, they're raised concrete
Concrete
blocks
Okay.
that you can stack on one another, where if you wanna, create, an area where you can dump mulch, for a yard, you know, or a commercial residence,
Right.
you stack these things up,
And it becomes your bay.
So
and
is
it's
it
your
like
bet.
lawful, a wall?
May I show you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He created basically a dam
Oh, okay.
between our house.
Those are the quote mafia blocks.
Oh,
This is
okay.
on his side of the road?
This is on the property line.
Yeah.
Right.
So this here is our property, and then on the other side is, of course, his driveway.
Well,
And here, he's doubled up those blocks,
so
which is another
where's
issue.
the road?
This Broad Street is back here.
So he's not on the other side of 447, he's on the East Broad Street side?
It's
I thought-
independent,
No,
it's,
he's on
an independent,
Oh, Old Independence Road?
Old Independence.
Okay.
Exactly.
Because I had the chance, because I talked to, I happened to be in the office, so I did look on GIS. I don't know if this gentleman, is he in Smithfield, Julia, from what you remember? Okay,
yeah.
so he's in Smithfield, so that,
This is the flooding.
so we
You're not
can
in
check with our
Smithfield.
zoning officer to
So,
see.
no,
Our backyard is
speaking with
Smithfield.
Ken Gold,
Uh-huh.
Our
he
backyard is
says,
In Smithfield?
you know,
Smithfield, our front yard is.
there's no,
And then,
fence ordinance within Smithfield Township.
water.
But there must be flood control
So,
Mm-hmm.
So,
question.
it's considered a fence. My understanding what a fence is
and then this is now looking up.
12
on the
inches
side of
to
our property.
18 inches wide,
Right,
wood or PVC plastic. This is 5 feet wide.
Right.
Blocking
This is what's
the
coming from.
progression of water.
right.
Well, this is a
Wow.
flood control question
Right.
for zoning and, for our engineer. I mean, I don't think this is allowed to modify your yard contours in a way that's creating a flood,
Right.
What pattern? It's a pattern.
It could be a civil matter also, Robert.
Well,
let us look. I'd like to
Yeah.
go out there and take a look.
Please do.
And Jacobs, I think,
Sure.
either has taken a look or wants to, right?
oh, yeah, well, yeah, because seeing it from the pictures, you know, and on top, you know, and then in person, it'll give us a good,
Because this
Perspective.
individual, you know, has taken all the trees out of the backyard, and then has dumped multiple piles of pavers, and then he's got unregistered.
Really created his own, flood channel that goes to you. That's what it sounds like.
Correct.
Well,
And he's got multiple trailers that, I don't know if they're registered
okay.
or what,
And he's marked his corner.
they're not RVs, but
Uh-huh.
they're trailers.
is he fronting on Gap View, Terrace or whatever it is there, or is he
No,
No.
on that side or is he on the other side? In other words, the street is just uphill from you, I think, or just, south of you is Gap View Terrace, or?
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
that's farther down.
From the
Before that.
Smithfield.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think between zoning rules and flood management rules, I think we also have to look at what role we can have, you know, East Stroudsburg, if they would have any idea too, because they're sending, the water's going under because of their system, correct?
Correct. And the house that was built across the street is a humongous home,
Oh, yeah.
and they have a cistern, but it wasn't built big enough for this house. John Blick approved it, okay, it'll, you know, it's okay for the neighborhood, whatever, and we've spoken
Sure.
to people with, you know, local government, and they're like, yeah, this wouldn't happen now,
Mhm.
somebody approved it years ago, you know,
But it
and.
sounds like he's modified it a lot even from what it was approved of.
Right.
So our neighbor on the other side of us who couldn't be here tonight, water as it finally broke through said driveway, has also destroyed her, plantings, trees, mulch, beds and whatnot.
Terrible.
And it's flooding them out as well. That name is Bravo. And,
Okay.
Shannon did speak to the Department of Environmental Protection and got a report, but then they found, so it's called an Earth Disturbance.
Oh, yeah, from the Conservation District?
Right. They found that there was no violations observed at this time. But there has to be something, like whether he's done his thing legally or not, or how high your fence is, or what material you guys were talking about, or I was showing pictures. Just don't think, and so, on Mott's question of what Shook could do. So, what he does with that could be. So, what we're looking for is some assistance of where do we go, who do we talk to rectify it. It floods all year round.
Sure.
But we have a little bit of snow, so on.
Well, first up, I think each of us should take a look at it. Brian, if you want to, you know where it is too, just so we know exactly what where you're talking about here, then start from there.
Yeah.
And see what the possibilities are. As Brian says, maybe it's also a civil thing, but I seem to feel that there's violations here that we can, I just don't know.
How high?
Excuse me, Brian here again. You say that Monroe County Conservation District and John Mott's were on the properties?
What is that, MCC?
Yeah, MCCD.
Yep.
That's what this recommendation is. You can have this, I have plenty of copies.
Oh, great.
Yes, they came out.
Okay, and they're pretty much mandated to file a formal report. Did they do that? Did John Mott's do that?
I don't know if this is, I don't know how.
That's the report we have.
I don't know if this is.
You have a report from the NCCD?
Yes, and we'll get copies.
Great, okay, thanks.
Yep.
All right. A good place to begin.
So, my question is, how high you can, quote, elevate your driveway?
Well, that would be definitely something that we can talk to our zoning officer about, because for the most part, if it fronts Smithfield Township, I mean, you have to get, if it goes onto a township road, then we would have to have a road, a driveway permit.
It doesn't go onto a road.
It doesn't? Okay.
It eventually goes down into East Stroudsburg Borough, and it all drains through the woods and whatnot to, they've got a big, not a pond, but, down across from Exchange Street, there's like a swamp there.
Right.
That eventually goes down, which you've got neighbors further down who come up like, what's going on up here?
Right.
Going on in your backyard.
Yeah.
And it's not us.
Right.
Across the street, they're in the borough. Somebody approved this very large house with a very large, roof.
Right.
And some kind of a cistern that really doesn't work.
Right. Well, we can definitely take all of this and, take a look in person and also take copies of the report, and we can talk to, between essentially, our own staff and then colleagues in the borough, and can figure out.
And we had, spoken with the borough years ago, now on a rainy day, but it wasn't this bad as the pictures they basically said that the water's going where it's supposed to go. And at that time, our concern was how flooded the side yard. Yes, knock on wood, it's not coming into our basement.
But it was moving, and now that he's put up this dam, it's not moving.
Right.
I personally recommend we stay with the Monroe County Conservation District initially. They transcend boundaries and municipal lines, and, they're very efficient at what they do. And, we would look for them for advice ourselves, actually.
Okay, I understand that water issue, but now you've got these blocks.
Forcing the water into
Yeah,
the channel.
that we're gonna have to.
Forcing the water into my backyard,
Right.
and these things are humongous. It's creating a dam.
I think the Conservation District would also get involved with that, and as you said earlier, and Jacob had said, our staff itself, our engineering staff, our zoning officer will all be over there very soon, that's for sure.
Officers, Ken Wolf?
Correct. So, I mean, it sounds like, you know, there might potentially be a couple of,
So Ken Wolf said that this is considered a fence. There's no fence ordinance. Like, what is considered a fence in Smithfield Township?
Not something like this, I would
These
think.
things are 5 foot wide, 8 foot long.
We don't wanna have people over in our backyard. This is what we look at in our backyard.
you don't want Route 80 to be.
Which is whatever.
Well, yeah, but you don't want, someone's leftover parts from Route 80 in your backyard.
Right. And
This sounds like something we've got to get into step by step by step
absolutely.
and get up to speed on. It seems like there's several ways to approach this.
This gentleman he's not here year round, and then the other thing will be when he's leaving.
Oh.
To go to his other house, and then.
One step at a time.
Right, one step at a time.
So
And this is our first
Well, this
our
is,
third
this is our,
step.
Sure.
something needs to be done if we really need to have help here.
Definitely, and, we're gonna
Your help.
do everything that we can. I appreciate you both very much for coming. It definitely helps, and, the information you gave us is gonna help too, so we're gonna get into it, and we'll keep you, in the loop every step of the way that we take.
They have your emails and phone numbers and everything.
I only put my phone number down, I put my email.
Put everything, so we can keep in
Yeah,
touch.
we have a garden plot down here.
Alright.
Is Lee still here?
No, but we think of him well.
I defeated him in 2019. I defeated him in the 2019 election, so Lee is no longer a supervisor.
Oh, okay.
But he's still a gardener.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw him the other day. I think he might even have a new dog now. Cooper's still around, but he's got a new dog too.
He's got a new pup. Probably gonna end up weighing out about 75 pounds.
Big dog.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're on the case, we'll see what we can do.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
we'll be in touch.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate what you guys do.
Mr. Chair, you should know that while there was some other discussion, I, Googled the guidelines for Monroe County.
Sure.
Monroe County, Pennsylvania, the community transmission is high. Everyone should wear a mask in indoor public settings.
Right. Well, they will now, at least here.
But that's what the CDC guideline is for Monroe County as of today.
Right. That said, does anyone else have any other, public comments? We no longer have any guests on Zoom, and there's no one else, no guests from the public in the room at this point any longer. Does anyone here have anything that they, wanna address?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned at 8:30. Thank you.
Okay, Brian, I'm shutting off. Goodbye, good night.
Yeah, hey, Robert, thank you very much.
You're welcome.